All you people over on YouTube, if you've got the idea, if you've got the key, the recipe to the secret sauce of how auction houses, marketplaces, markets, shops, stalls, buy orders, sell orders, if you know how that should work, go ahead and leave a comment on the video so that Intrepid can see some more ideas from its community. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about Ashes of Creation, and we're going to talk about economics. And one of the core features of any economy is the player-to-player trading. Now, EVE Online, probably the most robust player-to-player trading system ever. They have market and they have an auction house system where you can put contracts up for bid. On the other end of that extreme, I would say BDO is probably the most restrictive player-to-player economy I've seen, because there's basically no player-to-player trading. You can only put things up in the auction house, and the auction house has controlled pricing. So the question for the day is, and we're going to start in auction houses. And auction houses, should they be actual auction houses, or should they be markets where the players are basically filling the inventory? Now, what I mean by that is, an auction house is an auction house because I put up, I go on a raid and I get the brown journal of Jahlon from the Jahlon dungeon with the 2 evil cats, and I get this item. Now, if it's an auction house, I set that item in there for 1 million gold as a minimum bid, 1 million gold. And then it has a 2-day rolling timer with a no sniping mechanic, so that if there's a bid at the last second, it automatically reopens the bid for another 5 minutes. So 1 million, somebody's got a bid in there for 1 million. It's just about to close. You try to do 1 million and 1, then it'll automatically kick the bid over for another 10 million. So somebody could do 1 million and 2, or you can have your auction house rules set up where you have to do a minimum up over bid. So the 1 million bid goes in. If you want to trump that, you got to do 1,010,000, and then the next person would have to do 1,020,001, and so on and so forth. The reason why I ask is because there are certain things I have seen people inquire about, and some people want buy orders, they want sell orders, and those really come from EVE Online, where buy orders and sell orders are the greatest form of economic warfare. So trade locations stocked by the players seem like the tried and true method, but Intrepid, being full of ideas, will probably have some unique spin on it. Well, there are other games that do have auction houses. Final Fantasy XI had a bidding auction house. There could be both, but auction houses should only be in economic nodes. That's a thought. Well, so you're saying that there should be markets, and there should be the auction house itself should be an auction house. In a perfect world, their auction house has set price, sell orders, buy orders, and a bidding auction order of the top tier gold. In a perfect world, their auction house has set price. No, Barrington, that would be actually incorrect. In a perfect world, the auction house would not have price, sell orders, and buy orders. That is a market. That goes us down a line. If you're gonna say an auction house, then an auction house is an auction house. If you're gonna do it as bidding, then you can't attach buy and sell orders to an auction house that's gonna function as an auction house. You definitely can do buy and sell orders in a marketplace. That's why it says, or should they be markets, where basically players are filling the inventory. Whatever stops players from using the auction house as bank storage. True. I really like the auction house system in Final Fantasy XI. The items sold immediately if the reserve was met and they weren't linked. Items sold immediately if the reserve was met. Yes. Yes, they did. So in that regard, what they're talking about is, here is your bid. You have 1 million. Here are your offers, and these are walk-ups, And then you can call this reserve, or this can also be called buyout. So I do a 2.5 million. I do a 2.5 million reserve or 2.5 million buyout, meaning this brown journal, I'd like to get at least 1 million for this. If I don't get at least 1 million for it, it's not going to sell. It's going to return to me. People can walk up the offers from 1 million to 2,499,999. If anybody bids 2.5 million, they walk out with it. Now, you can do a auction house with the reserve or the buyout, and you can choose to not. That's one of the things that we need to figure out. Market ran by players hands down. In defense, I would rather have a player run economy over an artificial one. Well, hold on a second. When I say or markets where the players are basically filling the inventory, Ashes is going to have a player run economy. We're just really talking about how should the auction house work versus how should the marketplace work. And then we still have to add on stores and stalls to this. But yes, Ashes is going to have a player run economy no matter what they do. Auction house local to continent or node. Okay, so with that said, the auction house would be local to the node only unless under a stage 6 economic metropolis. Then the AHs are linked. You still have to travel to pick up item. Now, this is another contentious point. As it is right now, Intrepid has said that finished goods will get mailed to you, but you have to go pick up processed goods. I'm adamantly against this. I think you should have to go pick up whatever it is. If I buy a sword and it's on the other side of the region, I have to go travel to get that sword. There's no reason why the sword should get teleported to me, but all the ore doesn't. Will there be auction house cuts for posting and buying goods? Yes, there probably will be, but we don't have those numbers. Physical inventory changes the equation when compared to other games. An auction house may be more discreet, busier, harder to track. Market may be easier to target high rollers just for a big fancy item. True. I think in almost every case, player agency should take precedence. Set prices are easier to deal with, but remove a lot of player interaction. I don't think there should be any mins or any maxes in any market, anywhere, in Ashes of Creation. So the other thing here is, remember, Ashes has this other feature, and I'm running out of colors that I can see. Ashes has the marketplace, every node, and then market through Emporium, which is economic node special building. Now, aren't you punishing the gatherer? They put it up for sale. The crafter has to travel to pick it up. You aren't punishing the gatherer. They put it up for sale. The crafter has to travel to pick it up. The crafter's finished goods travel to the buyer. So if you're in node 7 and you have a linked auction house and you buy the sword and it was listed in node 7, but you're in node 9 and all those auction houses are linked, right now the rules say the item will travel to you. It'll get mailed to you. You're not, the crafter has to go to pick up the goods to make the item, but when the crafter sells the item, their item is available to more markets via automatic movement. If the gatherer is smart, they travel to the demand. That is also true. There is money to be made, not just as the gatherer. There is money to be made as being the flipper for the gatherer's goods. We talk about this all the time. If I can buy iron here for 5 silver a piece, take it up here for 5 gold a piece, I accept the risk by running the caravan, so I get the reward. Another thing with having to travel to pick up anything you buy is it opens you up to exploration, world building, possible adventure. I agree with every one of those statements. The crafter has to... you aren't because he sells wherever he wants. The crafter has to pick up the stuff, and the end purchaser isn't punished. It's the middleman that is. No, you've got that all wrong. You're assuming that the only person buying gatherables is a crafter. Everybody's going to be buying gatherables because everybody needs gatherables to get their items repaired. So I buy a sword, it gets teleported to me via the mail. I buy 100 iron ore, I need to repair my iron armor. I got to go travel and get that. Why are we mailing one set of items and not all the items? I think we should sell none of the items. Or we should mail none of the items. There should be buy and sell listings. It should be automated. Taking the gold from your inventory upon posting to be immediately delivered. And you should have to be standing at the location where the goods are deposited in order to fulfill the order, unless the market is connected, which should be an economic node. Yes. Buy and sell orders should have to be set up in person. The money should be removed from you when you establish the buy or sell order. EVE Online has an exploit that people take advantage of. But no, I agree with you. You should have to travel to each node to set up buy orders. And then this is something in horizontal progression you could tie to the Merchants Guild. Members of the Merchants Guild get more buy and sell orders. Maybe something you can pick it up yourself, or an automatic caravan that shows up once a day. No, you can't have an automatic caravan, because then how would you feel if I raided your caravan that had your purchases on it and I stole your stuff that you never had a chance? You can't have moving items around the world. You can have moving items around the world all you want if you're not going to have the caravan system. But I think if gatherers and processors and hunters have to put their items in a caravan to move them, then everybody needs to put them in a caravan to move them, or everybody needs to travel. I feel one rule for everybody is always better than multiple rules. I agree, no mailing of items will make the game feel bigger and more like a lived-in world. I agree with you. So, does anybody, let's see if we get the dissenting opinion, or if YouTube's gonna have to give us the dissenting opinion. So it seems like I've had nobody say, nobody has said that this is a bad idea, and nobody has said that putting these in these is a bad idea. Does anybody see a problem with a straight auction house that functions like an auction house, but every node, if the mayor decides to build a marketplace, the mayor may decide not to build a marketplace, and now you don't have anywhere to sell your goods in this node. Maybe this particular node isn't really big on economy. If we clip over here real quick, maybe the node down at the end of the Gold Brick Road, maybe the node by the sea has a marketplace and an auction house. But maybe the two mayors down the Gold Brick Road, all having a conversation with Mayor Jahlon up there in that city, they say, we're not gonna waste a building spot on the marketplace. What we're gonna do is, instead of putting a marketplace in that spot, we're gonna put a religious building or a social organization. Maybe these three towns actually, or these three nodes actually embrace the idea of a world. So you have the Merchants Guild in one, you have the Thieves Guild in one, you have the Scholars Academy in one, and so the two smaller nodes don't use up a constructible plot. Maybe that works that way. Do you mean like an auction house like in WoW, player filled, and you can set a separate bid and buyout price? Yes. Ultimately, I think the auction, everything in Ashes should be player driven, but I think having the auction house be bids, offers, reserve buyouts, and no sniping, a sniping mechanic. And then I believe the marketplace should have buy and sell orders. I wouldn't want an auction house. If you're not there to sell the item, then you can't, but I know it is impossible because people want to set it and forget it. You'd still have to be there. We're not talking a global auction house. You still have to, there's no global auction house. The auction houses are limited to the node only, unless they're under a stage 6 economic metropolis. Then the auction houses are linked. That's already happening. That's already a done deal. So, granted, I would also like to run a second account as a merchant, so it wouldn't bother me. Yeah, The auction house thing is already happening, but how, like, the idea of it is already happening. No, I mean, you have to physically be there and awake. No, that's nonsense. That's, I'm sorry. Having to be there personally, that's what falls into these two things. Because there's one other feature, and those are shops and stalls. Players can set up, and these two names really have to flip. Players can set up stalls where they fill it with NPCs and the NPCs sell the items for them. Or they can be a traveling bazaar and they can sell the items out of their backpack. Now, you're probably not going to get too many people selling gatherables out of their backpack. Otherwise, it can just stab you while you're AFK. But no, having to be online and awake in there, that will never work for a player-driven economy, because then you would never be able to fill the supply and demand chain that way. Absolutely not. No game ever do you have to do direct player-to-player trading. It just will not work. Early EQ was like that. I don't remember early EQ being like that. I thought early EQ, you had the bazaar in your backpack, so you could still be AFK with the stuff in your bag. Maybe it was. EQ was a long time ago. You have to remember, this is a game, not real life. Yeah. That's not going to work. Is setting up a stall effectively a list of sell orders? Setting up a stall is effectively, I sell you what's in my backpack. Best anti-sniping I've seen, in my opinion, is setting the timer to X, time remaining 1 minute whenever a bid is received. I think that if the bid happens under the last minute, it should just add 10 minutes. Oh, that is right. You did have to shout your inventory. Yes. How would the price be determined then? By NPC? No, by the player. You set up your prices. It works real simple. You put in a buy order for iron ore. You want to buy 1,000 iron ore at 1 gold. I set in a buy order for 1,000 iron ore at 1.1 gold. And then somebody else comes back and sets another one up for 1.2 gold. And then that's, the players determine the price in that local area, because obviously if I roll into town with iron ore and you're all nickel and diming me on iron ore, then I'm just going to turn around and I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to sell it to you at that price. I'm going to put a sell order in for 5 gold in iron ore. And that's just how pricing is going to happen. The next guy comes in, he might put a sell order in of iron ore at 4 gold 0.9. This is supply and demand. This is absolutely supply and demand. All right. So yeah, I don't think anybody's against any of these ideas. And I do know the reason why I did this segment today, as I do know Intrepid is bringing on an economics person. They originally had Dr. Rocco Scanzizzo write them a bunch of white papers early on in their early on in the history of the company, or I guess early on in the life of the company. They Dr. Scanzizzo wrote them some white papers. White papers are just ideas to keep in mind. Doesn't make a lot of sense to bring an economic specialist onto the team before you have an economy. And my belief is that Rocco is currently employed and he's not interested in moving from his current job. Intrepid's going to bring on somebody. And let me tell you, every MMO that brings on an economic specialist finds that they have a better player-driven economy than the people who set up the whole economy and then try to figure out how to make it work. I was wondering about who their economics pro would be, so there would be somebody else on board for sure. Yes, they are getting somebody else on board for sure. If I pop over here real quick, like pop over here and I look. They are looking for a senior economy designer. And if I remember, I looked at these and these were pretty beefy. What they were looking for. 5 years of game development experience in an economy designer role. Shipped multiplayer titles on the current generation of console or PC. Strong proficiency in Excel spreadsheet maintenance and balancing. Passion for game and development. Unreal Engine 4 experience is a major plus. Strong ability to deconstruct high-level gameplay systems and creative direction into specific technical details, features, and tasks. So yeah, they are looking for they are looking for somebody. They are looking for somebody with the meat. What I did notice though is minimum experienced is experienced. I am a little concerned about one thing that they didn't put in their job application. Current generation of consoles or PC. One thing that I would like the person to have is I'd like the person to have an MBA. I'd like the person to have a degree in economics. It's great to say somebody has experience doing it, but I know that there's the textbook people who can do it in theory, or the people who've done it. But when it comes to something like economics, I really hope the person has a degree in economics, because there are a lot of subtleties of a lot of subtleties in economy. Like, as you guys saw the other day, I was doing the supply and demand, and somebody jumped in on my case and they said price isn't in those supply and demands, or they said price is charted on one of the lines. And I said, no, it's not. A supply and demand curve is a supply demand curve. Price isn't one of the two axes. And I didn't really want to go into the point of, and I teach this stuff, but I teach this stuff. Carthos teaches the stuff as well. Supply and demand are linked, but the result of those things is price. And nobody ever wants to talk about the price part of it. Price can actually affect the supply and demand part. It's an algebraic equation. X plus Y equals Z, and you're going to get two of them. Auction house under mayoral mechanics and market shop stall under economic merchant, or some mix of them. No, I don't. Both of them are going to be based on the mayor. Does the mayor build an auction house? Does the mayor build a marketplace? If the player, or market, if it's an economic node, if the mayor builds a marketplace, then citizens will be able to set up stalls in that area. If not, everybody's going to be setting up shops. I would like you to know that I may just be a casual watcher of yours, but I love the idea you have and the open lines of dialogue you have with your audience. Keep up the good work. Oh, I mean, that means a lot to me. Thank you for popping in with that. Positivity. After I got roasted and I'm suffering from the skin grafts of all the harsh, toxic people on Reddit, I need those positive things. So I appreciate that. With that said, I'm going to pop out here real quick. And for all of you people, where are you? You're right here now. All you people over on YouTube, if you've got the idea, if you've got the key, the recipe to the secret sauce of how auction houses, marketplaces, markets, shops, stalls, buy orders, sell orders, if you know how that should work, go ahead and leave a comment on the video so that Intrepid can see some more ideas from its community.
I say, Sprocket, we've reached the end of another video. Time to thank the sponsors. Yes, that will do, that will do. Shall we pop off for a spot of tea?